What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another episode of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, are Callum Wiggins.
Hey there.
And Robert DeFelice.
Hello.
How's everybody doing today?
Doing pretty damn good. How about you, Tony?
Hanging in there. What about you, Callum?
It's a long day, but it always is.
24 hours of them over here. I don't know how it is over in the UK. Maybe you guys have 30 something.
Oh, it was raining terribly today. That's kind of the national symbol.
Well, what we're doing today is something that we kind of didn't even bother to decide on until the last minute here because we couldn't really think of anything else. We were kind of spitballing some ideas and we were like, I don't know about that. And eventually, Drew McIntyre decides to say that he wants them to bring back the European Championship. And I read that, and I'm like, I don't know, let's talk about that. So we've talked before about what if we were on a different timeline, and what if, Brock Lesnar didn't beat The Undertaker, and different things that went along those lines. But today, instead of talking about the potential of unifying the tag team titles and dealing with how do you separate the world titles if you've got Money in the Bank, and how they are kind of alluding to that just being a WrestleMania cash-in, and I'm assuming that that's just a flub in the promo and that they're going to clarify that it's exactly the same as what it was before. But if that's the case, then that's going to be another whole topic. Titles seem to be...
I was just talking about that. But because it seems really weird that they went out of their way to be like, they're going to the main event of WrestleMania. Okay.
Yeah, I just can't picture that they would book that 9 months in advance and be like, this person's fighting that champion and nothing's going to matter for 9 months. And if anybody gets injured, well, too bad. And there goes the gimmick and everything. But maybe they are doing some weird things and making a lot more mistakes. I don't know. So instead of talking about how they are potentially getting rid of championships and making entire divisions defunct and everything, what if the opposite was the case? What if they decided to bring back some of their old championships and accolades? And instead of getting rid of them, we just had an influx of new titles and anything else we can think of, like the Money in the Bank, the Royal Rumble, and like those kind of big accomplishments. And who would we put in those positions? Who makes the most sense? So on and so forth. That's what we're going to talk about today. So as we go along and we talk about those topics, we want to know what you have to say about it, whether you agree or you disagree with us. Drop a comment below, tell us your thoughts, and do all the good stuff that you would do here on YouTube or anything else that you are listening to this on. Leave a positive review or hit a like or subscribe or whatever it might be. Make sure that that's a little join button is something that you are aware of. That's the same thing as the Patreon. If you don't know what that is, ask. I'll tell you. I don't really feel like breaking down all the stuff the same way I do every single week. That you probably know it. If you don't, you've got plenty of different avenues for me to explain it to you. T-Public and Redbubble, that's another thing too. Let's get that out of the way. So let's get straight into this conversation here. What if they brought back these championships, and how would that play out, and who would we think would be the best suited for that? Let's start off with that European Championship, because Drew McIntyre is the reason why this popped up anyway. He is interested in them bringing that title back in the same way that a lot of people have in the past. I think that Rusev had talked about it. I think Cesaro had talked about it. Pretty much anybody who is in that range is like, man, I would like the European Championship to be back because I am European in some fashion. And
well, with Rusev, Lana showed the belt and said, like, there was a belt, there's a European title with the new logo, and it said Monday. And then my guess is that they were going to bring it back, and then they just scrapped it. Because they were like, well, Cena's going to beat you anyway, so don't worry about the European title.
I always remember that story from, I think it was WWE 12.
Yep.
The video game where you did the career mode was you start as a heel in Sheamus, and then you're the tweener in Triple H, and then you're a babyface as your own created character. And the whole kickoff of the Sheamus story is built around him winning the United States Championship and then switching out for the European Championship and building this entire European-wide stable with himself, McIntyre, Wade Barrett, and William Regal.
Yep.
Which would have been pretty awesome nowadays as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like the one that immediately springs to mind is like, oh, we're bringing back the European Championships. Just like, yeah, that's Sheamus's title probably.
It's funny because I would also say Sheamus. Sheamus, to me, he can help elevate a title. He has great wrestling matches in recent years, and he's a guy who has been world champion, what, like 5 or some odd times. And even though he doesn't always feel at that level, he can instantly give anything credibility. So I would say Sheamus.
Well, let's talk about the general list of people that we could go with here and kind of, because Sheamus is definitely high up on the list, if not my choice.
Yeah, there's plenty of other options. That's the one that immediately comes to mind just because of that recognition.
Sheamus is up there. Drew McIntyre, of course. That's the whole kind of point. Finn Balor
Gunther
is someone. Gunther.
See, I don't even think about Finn Balor. My brain goes, if not Sheamus, then Gunther. If not him, then maybe Drew.
I mean, Ludwig Kaiser, technically speaking, would still be because, he's European. But, they're not going to go with Kaiser over Gunther. Butch would definitely be a possibility. Rich Holland, even though I'm sure that we would pick Butch or Sheamus over Rich Holland.
I mean, we're talking about exclusively European people at the moment, but still, like the European Championship was predominantly held by European people.
Right, that's another thing too. Is you could play into the idea that somebody who's not European is holding the title, and that's almost even the talking point. I've never been as big a fan of that. To me, that just kind of seems like that's the tertiary championship. That who cares kind of thing. I think if you're going to have the European title, it should be a European-based person. Then again, I'm also the same person who.
That's fair because eventually you just need a tertiary belt, but it does help if you're going to launch it with a European. That's why they launched it with Bulldog.
The Canadian.
English.
Like you spent most of his time in Canada. it's a little bit of a loose association. But yeah, but then it was what was it? It was Bulldog, and then it was Michael. So they immediately went off the European train. So
and then it was Hunter, and then I think the next time it was held by European was
Regal. Well, actually, it was Bulldog again, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, because Bulldog does win it back when he's doing his denim jeans era.
Well, at this point, let me look at who the champions even were of the title history because I'm forgetting.
I think I could name most of them. I mean, it's so it's Triple H after that. It's Owen.
Shawn, Triple H, Owen, yeah.
Owen, and then I think he traded with Triple H back and forth a little bit, and then
it goes D'Lo.
D'Lo, yeah.
And then I assume it's X-Pac after that, yeah.
That's we got X-Pac, D'Lo, X-Pac, Shane, deactivated, Midian.
Oh yeah, Midian finds it in the trash, yeah. So
why do they do that?
And then it's D'Lo again, isn't it? After that, is it D'Lo after that? I know Jarrett wins it. Like
Jeff Jarrett wins it
because D'Lo makes the Eurocontinental champion. Jarrett's the Eurocontinental champion, and then it's Henry, and then it's
and then Angle.
No, it's D'Lo again after that, I think.
Yeah, D'Lo after that,
and then Val Venus,
Bulldog, and then Venus.
Bulldog and then Venus, and then after that it's
Angle, Jericho, Eddie Perry, Saturn, Al Snow, William Regal. So it takes all the way up until October 2000 to get.
I mean, there's only 2 European people that held the European Championship. I think it's only Bulldog and Regal.
Crazy.
So, point being, no, it doesn't need to be a European.
Yeah, but there is more of a contingent of mid-card level European talent in WWE nowadays, and of course, there's an entire NXT UK roster that's available to you as well if you wanted to plug from that.
Absolutely, I would add Dragunov here.
Yeah, and Bay, I'd say as well, would be a natural fit for that.
I know I wouldn't put the European Championship anywhere around the regular NXT. If I would put it in NXT UK, that's one thing. But if it were to be in NXT UK, I would probably be like, all right, you need to get rid of the Heritage Cup, and you have to make that the European Championship and kind of play around with that.
I'd have been more keen with the idea that instead of the NXT UK Championship, it was the European Championship was their main title.
Yeah, I imagined when they did the United Kingdom Championship, because if you remember, for a brief time, it was called the WWE United Kingdom Championship. I thought that was just what they were doing. It was a new name for a European title.
Based off of the different people that have been fighting for it, it really should have just been the European Championship.
What's the point? It's like the NXT, or the UK independent scene, which they took a lot of the talent from, was very like diversely European, and people from Australia as well, and
New Zealand, and
yeah. So it wasn't just, obviously it's based in the UK, so I understand the reason for it, but their roster is significantly not just UK based, but I guess it's the location, and you can't just say, oh, this is the title for everybody, because there's just another world championship. But you know, but
I think it should have been NXT Europe instead of NXT UK. That way you kind of call attention to it a little bit. But
did Brexit stop that? What happened there? Because they were doing that.
Oh, Brexit stopped a lot of things, Rob.
Well, fair enough.
It stopped my dreams dead in its tracks, really.
Oh, well.
Stopped my opportunity to travel to anywhere else in Europe without having to get a fucking visa.
Damn.
You know, but it's all good because we got all that money they promised us.
I mean, it's not like we've also made great decisions politically.
See, I wouldn't really want somebody like an Ilya Dragunov to win this unless it was like an NXT UK specific thing. I think that you can play around with him more on the Reign master, and I would lean a little bit more towards the idea of one of these two things. Either you give it to Sheamus, so it's something else for him to add to his repertoire, and then you eventually come around to this idea, or you skip straight to this idea, which is you give it to Gunther, and he eventually also wins the Intercontinental Championship, and you go back to the idea of the Eurocontinental Championship.
See, I was going to say Gunther takes it and then uses it to challenge the IC champion, but I feel like we're trying to talk about getting away from merging here.
Right, but I mean, eventually it's going to collapse. It's like the Big Bang, and then the Big Crunch.
And also, Tony can't stay away from merging things.
Urge to merge is too rising. Urge to merge rising, yeah.
But let's say if it couldn't be on a European, who would be a good fit for this title? Like, because the one that immediately springs to mind is like, if you want a mid-card champion, and this is to a wider point as well, but Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens hasn't won a championship since... Oh, when was the last time he was champion?
The US title in 2016, 17?
Yeah, 2016. Yeah, I think it was his last title. That was, him winning the United States title in that match with AJ Styles. I think it was the last time he was a champion in WWE.
That's pretty great.
He would be a great pick for that. If not the best one. I mean, Sami Zayn is another one I could see being.
Oh yeah, of course.
Having a lot of fun with it. I think that if you gave it to somebody like Shinsuke Nakamura, they just wouldn't do anything with it. They would be like, all right, well, you're holding a belt forever and never defending it.
I think Woods would be fun with it.
I think Woods would care a lot about being the European champion.
Just like King of the Ring, yeah.
Yeah, because he would just like go crazy about, like, he'd go super, he'd try and put on British accent and stuff like that, and he would get dressed up in all of that, like in like what he considered to be British regalia and stuff like that, and probably would go crazy with it. Anybody else spring to mind? I mean, they'd probably go to Corbin at some point.
Corbin could be fun with it though, because he could be like, oh, I'm going to travel all around Europe and be a douchebag. Be like, I'm the champion here too. I'm the champion here in Holland or whatever the fuck they're at. Like,
The only thing I would want there is Sami Zayn to do that, because I don't want Corbin doing the cheeky. And now I'm from Italy, and I'm like, this is
like when Al Snow was European champion, he was just like he would always come out dressed as like either an Italian or a Spanish guy or something like that. Of course, you probably wouldn't really fly in 2020 if you're putting on different accents as it would have done in the late 90s.
I like the idea of Owens. I think the best out of that.
Out of the non-European.
Yeah. And then I think I'd lean, as far as Europeans go, I think I'd lean probably straight to the Sheamus thing as well, but Gunther would be my number 2.
I think the Sheamus thing is just to give it like an immediate credibility. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, this guy's a multiple-time world champion. He's already been Intercontinental champion. Well, not actually Intercontinental champion, but United States champion. He's done multiple-time tag team champion. You give him it, and then you have Gunther beat him, and then it's just like, okay, Gunther's
Now
made pretty
Gunther's
quickly.
champion for 400 days or whatever.
Yeah. And even then, that's a good way to do it too, because then you get the Sheamus thing checked off, and you get the Intercontinental/European thing. Because Gunther, I mean, ultimately, I think Gunther is the one that you can have the most mileage out of. And a Gunther and Sheamus feud, we should get that at some point. Yeah. Down for that.
Also, R-Truth. Like, he's had so much fun calling the 24/7 championship the 24/7 7-Eleven European I-95. Like, he deserves a European title.
If anybody could play off the accents and dressing up and stuff, he would be the one. Where it wouldn't be as offensive, because it'd be like, oh, well, his character's a dipshit anyway, so. But then they would just start ruining that, and then Reggie would win it, and Tamina would marry somebody or whatever.
Like, I think tertiary titles are great because, everybody has something to fight over then. Like Christian and DDP had a European title match at WrestleMania. Did it matter? Not much, but like, it's a match that happened and it had some weight to it.
Now, the rules are totally different when it comes to something like the Hardcore Championship, because that is essentially that 24/7. Well, I mean, I guess this would be part of the debate. What if they brought it back? Would they keep the 24/7 rule with it, or would they just make it every match has to be in a hardcore environment? Because if you keep the 24/7 thing, that defeats the purpose of the 24/7 title.
Yeah, you'd have to keep, if you're keeping the 24/7 title and you're just adding the hardcore to it, then yeah, it would need to have a change in branding.
Yeah, like I don't want to see them with the 24/7 rule, because the 24/7 thing was fun for the shenanigans, but we've seen 24/7 shenanigans for the last 3 years without any of the fun of hardcore. And I think in today's environment, if you just have a hardcore title, it's something so new, because they don't really do, mid-card or undercard hardcore matches, but maybe that could give something for Dabakato or whoever, really.
Yeah, so I think we're all kind of approaching it in the same way. It's they could do it in AEW with like the FTW championship if they wanted to, but like the idea being the guy holding it says, look, when the bell rings, there are no rules. You are going to make me either tap out, pass out, get knocked out, or take a pinfall. That's it. There's no count outs. There's no... If falls count anywhere, maybe you can make that a part of it, if that's the case, because it's just, well,
but yeah,
there are no rules.
That's the thing that should differentiate hardcore matches from street fights, which it seems like the complete opposite way around. That a street fight should really be able to, you should really be able to pin someone anywhere because it's a street fight, but actually it's a hardcore is a falls count anywhere, and a street fight has to be pinned in the ring.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like falls count anywhere, you can use any weapons, people can interfere. It's just you got to win by those few kind of methods, and you got to get a badass to do that, because you can't just really have like, all right, The Miz is holding the hardcore title, because at the certain point when the bell rings, what's he going to do? He's going to run away. He can't retain the title by doing that. So you got to have somebody who can have the credibility of stepping in the ring, fighting everybody, walking out, and still holding the title, which limits it to, I would assume, a few people. I mean, everybody to a certain extent tough. Angelo Dawkins could whoop all three of us in a fight with the three of us against him. You know what I mean? So it's like, you look at anybody on this list. Yeah, Chad Gable can kick a lot of people's asses, and he's on the smaller side. But as far as like badass hardcore wrestler types go, I don't have anybody that stands out to me.
Honestly, I'm thinking, wow, this would be really cool if you split the not the Street Profits. You just said them, so think about them. But the Vikings, like Eric and Ivar could beat the shit out of people. Hardcore rules, Corbin This is how you get Corbin to be a badass, where he's just like the lone wolf who's beating everybody up.
The bare knuckle glove, golden glove thing or whatever. I forget what it was.
You know, you've got Solo Sikoa in NXT. He could fuck people up and win the hardcore title.
And you're looking at like Butch a little bit, because essentially his gimmick nowadays is he just is a feral fighter that just beats everybody up in any circumstances, doesn't shy away from any sort of fight. He'd be good as like this underdog, like just won't quit, will always come at you type of character. I think that'd be good for a hardcore champion.
I really like what they're. I gotta tell you, I like what they're doing with him. The name is stupid, but I like the idea of he just wants to beat people up. You know, I think that can work.
And then, of course, Sheamus, the whole fight night thing, bringing him back up. He's going to win all these championships. His possibility.
That's how good Sheamus is.
Just if there's anyone else. I mean, like with the right gimmick, obviously probably not in the gimmick that he is now, but Cameron Grimes could probably make this work.
Cameron Grimes.
I think that starts to come off a little bit like Superhuman with him.
I mean, maybe, but I don't think it's like too out of place. Santos Escobar and Tony D'Angelo, they're kind of like the more gritty, violent types. I mean, they're mob bosses essentially, so that kind of falls into the hardcore category. Just if there's anyone else, I assume Von Wagner would get involved in this, but like, wouldn't really bother me one way or the other. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really kind of decipher because WWE is a landscape that doesn't lend itself to hardcore wrestling.
Yeah, sometimes when we do these discussions, it forces us to really look at the roster, and you see things that you don't realize otherwise. Like, I'm thinking about it now, and they don't really have a lot of gritty, badass fighters. Like, maybe Lashley, but I wouldn't want to see him in that division. I could see Omos as a hardcore champion. They don't have a lot of fighters. Like, maybe a Trick Williams, if Carmelo Hayes is off doing, his thing in the ring, Trick Williams could just hold court with a hardcore title.
Because even somebody like Josh Briggs.
That's the next name. That was honestly the next name out of my mouth.
Like, he could potentially, but we haven't seen it yet from him. So it's jumping ahead and just kind of being like, well, that guy looks like he could win a fight more than anything else. And we know that, like we said, Roderick Strong can win a fight. What makes him not able to win this? Well, he's more of a wrestler. Yeah, but, just because it's a wrestling thing doesn't mean that he can't wrestle and win a fight. And Sanga's huge. Yeah, he could beat the shit out of people, but would you want him to be their champion? I wouldn't necessarily,
What about somebody like a Damian Priest? I think he'd be great at this.
I could see Priest being a good option.
Yeah, I think that could actually work out pretty well. I'm actually diving over into NXT UK as well, because I think there's actually more people in that camp that actually fit it. Yeah, you got I'm thinking Rampage Brown. I think that he fits the mold quite well.
Sam Gradwell.
Sam Gradwell, Shaw Samuels, I think. Wolfgang.
Wild Boar could win a fight. Look, this guy looks like he could beat anybody.
Primate as well, yeah.
See, I would think that Wild Boar would be more the type that would be fed to somebody, and that's not a joke about Wild Boar.
Yeah, but he's like a hardcore division wrestler. We're kind of like looking at people that are in the hardcore division as opposed to maybe the champion.
Yeah, like a Joe Coffey, I could understand potentially.
A T-Bone, like, I don't know if I've ever seen a T-Bone match, but he looks like a guy who could easily be hardcore champion.
Yeah, Saxon Huxley fits that sort of mold as well.
Hell yeah, let's put a hardcore title on NXT UK.
Make it. Well, I would assume with that one, that would have to be cross-branded
because you'd have to play around. Holland, like, his whole deal is that he's from the streets and he beats people up. Ridge Holland could be a hardcore champion.
I could see maybe them repackaging T-Bar, but that's a little bit of a stretch. Viking Raiders, yeah, the Viking Raiders make sense, but then again, you'd have to pick one. Who do you pick?
Ivar. He's cute. Or
Maybe
not
that's
so
not
much.
so good for the hardcore championship.
Right.
Not so cute one. I mean, I think in terms of just pure, like, Ivar's the more flamboyant one with the like flips and stuff like that, and he's the bigger guy out of the two of them. But Eric's more of a ground and pound fighter type. I don't want to take on either of them in a fight, but realistically, I'd actually fancy my chances more with Ivar than I would with Eric. But
in this theoretical thing that we're talking about, you can't really necessarily have. I mean, you could have multi-champion kind of setups, but more than likely you would keep it to where it's one belt on one person and not double up. I could see the argument being that this would be where we would go with Sheamus, and then we would go with the European title being Gunther, because the hardcore title needs that kind of recognition as well. And Sheamus winning it and being like, all right, I'm a former world champion and I'm going for the hardcore thing and it's fight night. I think that makes even more sense than to go with these other options and to leave European title over with Gunther.
I could go with that.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'm looking around. There's quite a few people that I can see having a lot of fun with this, like Otis with a hardcore title, or better yet, Chad Gable with a hardcore title, having Otis as his like heavy. You know, you could do a lot of fun things with this.
I'd be down for them bringing it back, and so long as they don't just make it a kendo stick match over and over again.
Is it one of those things where like that? Oh, being extreme is played out and it's too early 2000s.
Well, no,
it's like
I mean, they don't need blood on television.
Well, no, I get that, but
there's no more chair shots to the head or anything like that. So I think they just think that hardcore has passed them by.
But I mean, like, the terminology, how, like, you know, they don't call them hardcore matches, they're extreme rules. Like, is that just a passe term?
Well, you know what Vince is like with words.
Mm-hmm.
They just need to sound wrong to him one day and he bans it forever. So
I mean, that rationality, they probably wouldn't call it the hardcore championship. They'd probably call it the no holds barred title or the extreme title or something.
Yeah, like, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, if they were to really bring it back, I could see them calling it the...
Well, they think the 24/7 title is that. They think that... They think that the thing that was really cool about the... Well, they think that the thing that was really cool about the hardcore title was the 24/7 rule. And that was a good aspect of it. That was great when Crash Holly was doing it, and they were doing a lot of cool, interesting matches and concepts, but they kind of did that for, I don't know, 6 months to a year with the 24/7 title, and then it's just the same thing on repeat, roll up over and over again. So,
fair enough. I get what you guys are saying.
Picking up what we're putting down.
All
right. Well, 4 other titles, unless we can think of some other ones that we do have here, are the Cruiserweight, the $1 Million Championship, the Divas Championship, and the World Martial Arts Heavyweight Championship. Which one do you guys want to talk about next?
Let's talk about that last one, because I think where do you go with that, right? Like, that was created for Inoki, wasn't it?
Yeah, that is a championship that I could never tell you the lineage of like why they started that or whatever. The full breakdown is Inoki, then I don't know how to pronounce this person's name, Shota Chochishvili. Okay,
I'm amazed that there was more than one.
And then Inoki again, and then deactivated. So, but I mean, Inoki held it for a while. He held it for combined 4,000 days, according to their title reign.
Yeah, but he defended it like twice.
Yeah,
that's. But I mean, that's just due to the fact that they had a working relationship in New Japan for a long period of time. So that doesn't surprise me.
Wasn't that like their way of saying, well, you're not the WWF champion, but you're the
Even
WWF
though you won the
champion.
WWF championship.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's probably about it. I mean, if that's going to anyone, I mean, that's probably Shinsuke, I'd say.
Yeah.
Because the gimmick behind this one is that it was supposed to be a quote-unquote shoot martial arts thing, rather than, you know, it's just another belt reskin kind of thing. So we are leaning obviously more towards the New Japan side, but it doesn't have to necessarily be New Japan. I mean, if it's world martial arts, it doesn't have to be only the Japanese talent or fighting for it or anything. But Shinsuke Nakamura, definitely one of the obvious picks to talk about. One of the higher up on the list.
Riddle was an obvious option.
Yeah.
Riddle's definitely a potential.
Just trying to figure ones that have this kind of like MMA style background to them.
You gotta have somebody who could do the fight things like that for sure, not like a just pure brawler, T-Bone-ish type guy.
Yeah. Trying to look. I mean, the thing about like, I probably would imagine they would change the title to be moved just away from karate, because that makes it seem like it's a bit like pigeonholing someone into that one mixed martial arts. They make it just an overall mixed martial arts title instead. So I could see, oddly enough, someone like Mustafa Ali, because he does a lot of that stuff. When you see like his training videos on Twitter and stuff like that, I could see someone like a Shelton Benjamin in this sort of category as well.
This could be where Lashley comes in.
Yeah, I can see that.
Gable Steveson, the wrestling background.
You got Gable Steveson, you got Chad Gable, you got Baron Corbin again.
If you wanted to play around with it, you could do like Ronda. Like this belt will be intergender because Ronda's a fucking badass. So Ronda,
Got
We're definitely approaching this as kind of like a Raw Underground
which
kind of thing.
I think that they should play around with more, because honestly, the product it's stale, and some of these titles coming back could be fun.
This would fit something maybe for the Creed brothers.
I'd be down with
those
that.
ones. Let's see. Briggs maybe, if it fits into his style. Roderick Strong, I think would fit well with this.
Yeah, Diamond Mine is pretty much built on that idea of being good fighters like that.
Yeah. Trying to see if there's anyone else that really speaks to mind. Like maybe Tyler Bate, maybe Noam Dar to an extent.
Yeah, like I wouldn't see somebody like a Rey Mysterio winning this, for instance. No. I think that there is a chance that you could get somebody like Butch in there, but that doesn't strike me as much of a fit for him other than European and hardcore.
Yeah. And more tangentially, I would thought that might be a cool idea for WWE at one point to have done like not so much a title, but like a golden luchador mask.
That would have been cool.
This is like the luchadors battle over it, and they get to have this cool golden mask.
You gotta watch that freaking Netflix movie, man. Because it's been out.
There are a lot of them, Rob. You're gonna have to narrow it down for.
Well, the one where the kid wins the mask, and then he faces Babatunde because he's big.
Let's see. Anybody in NXT that we're not talking about? I mean, we talked about the Creed brothers. Talked about
Damon Kemp, who's also
Damon Kemp. Yeah,
Stevenson.
Again, it's pretty much Diamond Mine, really.
Not quite getting the vibe from somebody like a Duke Hudson, even though I'm sure that he could, destroy some people in a fight.
I get that kind of vibe from Bron Breakker, but maybe this is too low down for Bron Breakker.
Yeah, I don't think I would end up. I mean, I think he's better off.
I think Breakker could be a fun champion for something like this, but it would be a stepping stone.
It's just a Nathan Fraser thing. Certainly not Quincy. Escobar, nah, I'm not feeling that for him. Yeah, I mean, maybe a Zion Quinn, but we haven't seen too much of him to really be able to pinpoint that. Well, where would you guys want it to be? If we got like an MMA kind of championship, would you want this to be more on the NXT UK, the NXT kind of side of things, or the main roster, or cross-branding?
I've been operating under the assumption that if all these belts are back, it's because they merged the brands and all of the other belts are gone.
Yeah, I mean, for most of these ones, I'd kind of want to have some fluidity to it, or the fact that we're just moving someone from NXT to the main roster to hold it. Because I feel like at least the belts we discussed so far are pretty main roster centric.
Mm. I could see this being more of an offshoot extra show.
Yeah, do just a one-off, like replace main event with this.
Right, yeah. Just do some kind of extra thing where it's like, all right, we're gonna before Monday Night Raw, the champion, whoever it is, has a potential challenge and maybe one undercard match, and maybe that's where you book things where you do that pseudo point schedule, like it's kind of supposed to be a round robin tournament kind of deal or something, or that could be a fun way to differentiate it.
How about this? We book out the entire last hour of Raw to something that's a bit more gritty and realistic.
We could have dancers that show up for one night and surround the ring with Brianna Brandy and whatnot.
People will complain about it and then it won't go anywhere.
Ultimately, I think that I would lean more towards putting this on either Nakamura for the sake of kind of like, hey, it's a callback, that kind of thing, or going straight to Lashley rather than Riddle.
Out of those choices, I'd lean mostly towards Nakamura to start with.
Yeah. I go with Shinsuke.
And I think the heritage is there, and I think he plays off that style very well.
This would be something I'd actually be pretty interested in, though. I'd be up for.
So far, everything we've talked about seems like, yeah, this is a great idea to add some fun.
Yeah, who would have thought that what this company needs is more championships?
All right, we got Cruiserweight, got $1 million, and we got Divas. And then if we think it's something else, but so far that's all we thought of.
Cruiserweight. Like
we're not doing, for anybody who's curious, the ECW and WCW, that's just a belt. There's nothing to it. So
essentially, the ECW championship is now the NXT championship,
and the WCW championship is the other world title. So yeah, Divas you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the Cruiserweight one.
Oh, the Cruiserweight. That's what you mentioned.
Because like the Cruiserweight's just like the body's still pretty much warm at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's a fun thought, though. Would you bring back that one, or would you bring back the
light heavyweight?
Or kind of based around the WCW one?
Oh, what the old styling of
like
it,
the design, yeah.
I mean, I preferred the old styling, but that's the case with a lot of belts.
I think I'd go with the current one.
It was kind of different, which was good, And honestly, if you're gonna bring that back, I think it should be a SmackDown thing. And I put it on Ricochet.
Yep, you beat me to it. I was going to say, you got to give it on somebody who's got a big enough name and is on the main roster for people to care about it. You can't throw it in NXT. You can put an NXT guy fighting for it, or you can, pass it around. But if you're going to go, okay, well, we need to legitimize this, you can't be like, hey, it's a kid. Nobody will give a shit. Ricochet is the first person that I thought of.
And it obviously makes sense for me. I'll bring the title back. It's just like, I don't know whether that sort of title has a place in the current landscape. It's just like there aren't enough big people.
Yeah, there aren't enough heavyweights to justify.
I mean, fundamentally, Theory's a cruiserweight, and like Montez Ford is a cruiserweight, and Finn Balor is a cruiserweight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many people that have been either world champions or could be positioned forward. Like, Riddle's a cruiserweight. And
is Riddle under 205?
No.
Is he? Well, is he billed under 205? Is probably the bigger question.
Yeah. Well,
what's he billed at?
He's billed at 216.
216. So he probably is about 200. Okay. I mean, that's just the way that it kind of works. But I mean, in a different era. I mean, in the era of the previous Cruiserweight Championship, the limit was 220. I know it's 205 now, but like, there are many people that if they're billed over 205 now, could easily be adjusted to be under that, and you wouldn't bat an eyelid.
Whole gimmick about making it the weight for the Cruiserweight title. And that could be fun in its own right.
Yeah, but yeah, I think obviously Ricochet makes a huge amount of sense because he's so dynamic in the ring. He'd have some cool matches with other people of his size and build. You look at I mean, Balor would be interesting, but I kind of think Balor's moved beyond that point to where him going into a cruiserweight division would seem weird.
Has he though? Like every time he's on the main roster, I feel like he hasn't moved past that point.
Well, he was never at that point. He's always been the top. Well, I say top star, but like he was always a big star in NXT. There was never anything of him. I know there's a cruiserweight title didn't exist at the time, but there's never anything. It's like, oh, he's a junior, like he was in New Japan. He's always felt like a bigger deal than that.
He doesn't wrestle a style that I would think, because if you figure the European title on here, we're going for story as the gimmick. Hardcore title, we're going for those style matches. That's what's separating it. The MMA, underground, martial arts, whatever you want to call it, that would be the gimmick behind that. So you need something to separate this. And I think the cruiserweight, if you give it to somebody like a Finn Balor, they wrestle the exact same match that they're having for the Intercontinental title, and nobody can tell the difference. But if you give it to Ricochet, or somebody who is more of that flippy, high-flying, bouncing around the ring, and you're supposed to pay attention to that, then that's what makes people go, oh, okay, so that's the flippy belt. And ultimately, even though that's a bad thing to be like, that's all that people care about, Ricochet, maybe a Rey Mysterio, those kind of people are the ones that I would lean more towards. Rather than, hey, technically speaking, Chad Gable could win it, but he's going to be a ground wrestler,
Well, I think you need that. Essentially, if you're going to bring in a cruiserweight title, you have the template. You just make it WCW's cruiserweight division.
Yeah, because
WCW's cruiserweight division had Dean Malenko in it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have variety. You can't just have everybody do the same thing. But for a first champion, I think you need to set it as like a flippy guy rather than Mustafa Ali.
Well, I think Ricochet can basically do it all. So there's no harm of putting it on him to start off with, but yeah, I think that it should be more open up to other people. But again, I don't know if Finn Balor would belong in that group, but definitely Gable, definitely Cedric, Tozawa could be given a more serious role again, or still play whatever comedy shtick he's doing. Got Ali,
Reggie, of course, is flipping around. Yeah,
you got Butch and
Cedric. It's another person.
Mansoor.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, has Reggie ever had an actual match?
Yeah.
Well, he's
defended the 24/7 title.
No. I mean, like, has he had a match outside of him just being like, okay, I gotta run away, and I'm gonna flip? I don't know having a match.
We don't know if he can actually, wrestle, but they don't need him for that.
Fair enough.
Kofi would be an interesting choice for this.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Woods, again, I'll say Woods. Like, Woods would have fun with this.
I don't know, but now I'm debating about whether or not the Ricochet or Kofi thing is where I would end up wanting to go. Because if we were to go with Ricochet, we would have to pick a new Intercontinental Champion. I think WWE is going to do that pretty soon anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I'd go with Ricochet because Kofi, he's already beyond that.
Yeah, I think Kofi's too big a name for that title. I think, I don't think you should try and it sounds a bit weird here, but shouldn't muddy the waters with a guy who's a former world champion becoming a cruiserweight champion.
You don't think that would just add credibility to the title?
No, because I feel like you need to differentiate. But essentially, this is based around like how I would approach booking a cruiserweight. Because in my ideal quote unquote wrestling promotion, you have a cruiserweight champion, you have a world champion. In the same way New Japan does do with junior and heavyweight title. Like, you have the people that are junior, but on any given night, the junior champion, if they're a big enough name, would be main event in the show rather than the world champion. It depends on how big the feud is or how interesting the match is. But you'd have people like, okay, you're a designated heavyweight, you're a designated cruiserweight, and maybe there could be some scope for like the idea of like someone cuts down load of weight in the heavyweight and drops down to cruiserweight, but it just feels like there should be that differentiation.
Then I could see a scenario where Kofi's in like a tournament to crown the Cruiserweight champion, and then loses to a guy like a Ricochet, and that's like, oh, he even beat a world champion.
I can see that definitely being, that can be something that happens.
If we were to go with Ricochet for that, then we would have to pick an Intercontinental Champion. And with the current roster, like, we're all, this what if is, of course, none of this shit's happening. But if this were to be like, all right, tomorrow's Thursday. If on Friday on SmackDown, they were like, by the way, we're adding all these titles. What are we doing with it? We would need to get that Intercontinental title off of Ricochet. So who on the roster right now do you guys think would be a better choice for that? You got to rule out Gunther. If we would go with him with European, we got to rule out Sheamus for the hardcore, and we roll out Nakamura.
I say this with legitimacy. I think Jinder Mahal would be a better Intercontinental Champion.
I'm not going to give my vote on that one.
Yeah. No.
What has Ricochet done?
Well, he hasn't done a lot. Well, he's defended it a lot more than basically any other Intercontinental Champion before him for the last year or two. It's not that he's doing anything special, but then again, they don't treat the title as anything special, so I don't really blame him in that regard.
Much like they would, I'd probably just go back to Sami Zayn.
I think Zayn is one of the main options.
I think Woods. I think Woods is due a singles title.
Yes, but I want to build to that. I want Woods to beat like a Corbin or something for that. Oh, maybe I put it on Corbin.
Corbin and Zayn are the two that are standing out to me. Because I don't think you, to use the phrase muddy the waters, like you said earlier, if you got a belt on Sheamus and you got a belt on Gunther, I don't think you put it on Butch or Rich Holland or Ludwig Kaiser. I don't think that there's a justification of like giving it to Roman or Jimmy or somebody like that. Or
why are we just looking at SmackDown names at the moment? They could easily just say, someone on Raw could just be the Intercontinental Champion.
That's true.
Especially if we've got all these titles now, which it doesn't really matter.
In that case, Damian Priest.
They are just sort of going, hey, Lacey Evans is on Raw now and she's a heel and that kind of shit. So I mean, that's definitely a possibility.
But yeah, like Damian Priest would make sense with this title.
I can see Priest for sure.
I think
we already have a belt on Theory.
AJ Styles, I know he's been it before, but like he's obviously a capable name to hold it. Rollins.
Owens,
definitely. And Miz at this point, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the Miz, but I know that the Miz works with the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah.
There's Ciampa.
He works. Look, I got to see more from Ciampa. Not over the moon with Ciampa right now on the main roster. I know, surprise, but like, they haven't done anything with him. He's attacking Ali. Hasn't explained himself as best I can see. And he had a random match where Miz helped him win.
I think if Santos Escobar moved to the main roster, he'd be a good fit for that.
I agree with that.
I'd be cool with Escobar. I like Escobar.
But then again, it's like whether he's more fitting in the cruiserweight division than that thing. But I guess there's more crossover with those ones.
I mean, you could technically go with like a Grayson Waller, but I would keep him in NXT.
Carmelo Hayes.
Oh yeah,
Hayes could. I think I'd probably not go Hayes because I think he might be better off beating Breaker. But I mean, he's definitely an option. Roderick Strong, if he doesn't leave, but he's potentially going to leave, I wouldn't trust that. LA Knight is somebody that would be kind of fun, but I think that there's other people I would pick over him. Nobody in NXT UK sounds to me like I'd go in that direction. I think that I'd kind of go. I mean, I got a list of just from these names that we were just talking about. I got a list of 10 people: Corbin, Zayn, Priest, Owens, Rollins, Miz, Ali, Ciampa, Balor, Escobar.
I know. Look, I know their day has come and gone, but you'll never get me to say Ziggler or Roode is a bad option for a mid-card champion. Like, they're there.
I think right now, if you're telling me right now who I'd want as Intercontinental Champion out of the list of people, I'd probably say Owens.
But
I think he needs to be a mid-card champion. I think he just works in that role.
I would be in the writer's room screaming, and he cannot lose it to Ezekiel. I like Owens. I wish he was doing so much more right now. He should be the hottest thing, and he's not. So yeah, I'd give him the IC title.
I mean, as far as a like a consensus thing, you're not gonna hear much of an argument from me on Kevin Owens. I would lean probably more towards a couple other options than Owens. I'd probably actually go Ciampa if I had a pick. Just to be like, all right, look, he's immediately got a championship. Let's take him seriously. But I mean, you put it on Owens, you know you're going to get something good out of that. So I'd be cool with that. Ricochet drops the belt to Owens, wins Cruiserweight title. Yeah, that sounds cool. We got two other ones, though. The Divas and the $1 Million Championship.
$1 million. I think I'd probably just put it on Corbin and let him do his happy Corbin. I'm gonna blow all my money in Vegas stick and probably leave it at that.
Yeah, you know, that might be the one way to go. Because you got to go somebody who's got money. Otherwise, what's the point? Why bother to put it on like I don't know, Fabian Eichner and be like, he's the champion. Why? You know? LA Knight?
Well, yeah.
Maybe give that title back to him.
Already, yeah. I could see this with Omos, an MVP, because of that whole the whole MVP aesthetic with it. I could see him just carrying the title for Omos.
A heel Cody Rhodes would be a great $1 Million champion. That's not where we're going with him right now.
Fury would work. Fury would work if he wasn't the United States champion.
Yeah, and I'm not willing to be like, just take the U.S. title off of him and give him the $1 million. I think that's worth it. It could technically be somebody on the women's side. You could go for, Carmella or someone.
Miz works great.
Yeah, it's a $1 million champion.
Miz.
Now that you say that,
the $1 million face now is the $1 million belt. That type.
Hear me out here. Logan Paul. Man, how much is that Pokemon card worth? Purchased? Like, he could pull it off. Have fun with that.
I think they could feud for it.
For the sheer sake of saying that he's not on the roster and not wanting to give him a title, yeah, I wouldn't go with Logan Paul, but that makes me lean even more towards the Miz option thing. Yeah.
Still Miz then, and then they're feuding over it.
Right, yeah. I think, Miz would be the guy that would get it over the best. He'd be the one that'd be selling it as, what are you talking about? I'm definitely a world champion. I don't need the other belt. I've got this one. I already won that belt. Yeah, he'd be more fun than Corbin, even.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I could lean towards that.
Is there any other money type based people? I don't think so, right?
Santos and Tony D.
Eventually, Face. If we get Face on television, I'd like to see. LA Knight's already got the history with it.
I mean, if Duke Hudson was still a poker player, maybe.
Yeah.
Obviously, Cameron Grimes still has the money
He's
gimmick.
Not like he's got a relationship.
Carmelo Hayes would work with this as well.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely going Miz. Because even though some of these ideas do make sense, nothing's sounding as fun to me as the Miz one.
And not to bring up his name again, but, wasn't the original Bobby Roode like, hey, I'm rich?
Yeah, Robert Roode.
Yeah. Yeah, he would work as that as well, yeah.
All right, well then the Divas. Now, this one, I originally was like, well, what would we do? But I think it was Callum had suggested, well, why don't we try messing around with this as a mid-card belt or something?
Yeah.
I think, this immediately attracts, with the title still being, like, quote-unquote, a Divas Championship, it pins someone into a certain mold of, like, okay, this is for a diva-like character.
Yeah, this isn't like Asuka kicking your ass kind of mode.
No, this is Carmella.
That's the one that came to my mind immediately. Like, if I'm picking from the current day main roster, Carmella. But, like, if you believe the rumors and all the stories about this is how they're going, it'd make a lot of sense to bring this belt back right now. You know, hey, we had this Evolution era. I'm ready to see the Divas come back, and then Carmella can bring back the Divas Championship, or even Mandy Rose can lose the NXT Women's title, go back to the main roster, and be like, "I'm bringing the attraction, and we're divas."
So for the sake of kind of diving into this rabbit hole and breaking down each one of the rosters, because we do have a limited amount of people that we could pick from this too, and it's just easier to look at it this way. I don't think there's a single person from NXT UK that I would pick for that spot.
Yeah. Oh, there's Ginny.
The Carmella option, way better.
I mean, I'm not saying like there's only Ginny and it should be Ginny, but
yeah,
she's there.
But she would be, if he had to go with NXT UK, I think Ginny's the one that makes most sense. On the NXT side, you got like, it's not gonna.
It's pretty much Divas era, yeah.
Bro.
But you toss out names like, it wouldn't be Alba Fire. It wouldn't be Erica Yan or Yulissa Leon or Zoe Stark. Or, this would be something that would be more of the Tiffany Stratton.
Hear me out though. Why wouldn't it be Cora Jade? Cora Jade and Roxanne can easily play up the whole, well, we wanted to be Divas champion.
Maybe, but like, I feel like they have more of a element of credibility to them, which I sound bad about with Trina title, which isn't really super credible, but I don't think they fit the mold, that type. But then again, maybe it's, if you have too many people of that mold, they're naturally heel characters.
Right.
So who's a diva that's a baby face? Well, then maybe you could look at someone like, well, Nikita Lyons, I think is a diva.
God.
Is a diva baby face.
She would be one of the options potentially.
Like, put Lash Legend in this group.
Lash Legend definitely on the list that I wrote there. Toxic Attraction. It wouldn't be somebody like a Saray, of course.
I think Indy Hartwell's in this group.
Indy, yeah. I mean, she would be low on the list of options to pick for me, but she could fit it. Fallon Henley too. I could see her potentially being like Elektra Lopez.
Yeah. Ocean Leon. Yeah, they both fit into this mold. Both
Casey, or what's her name now? Katana.
Chance.
Yeah, Katana and Kaden. Yeah, they both fit into this.
I could see on the SmackDown side, you got potentially somebody like an Aaliyah, but I think that there's far better options. I don't think, of course, Xia Li or Shayna or Shotzi. None of them stand out.
All the other ones are more like the wrestler type.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like on Raw, obviously Carmella's the big fit. Queen Zelina, I think, fits this mold better. So
Zelina for
I
sure.
think Lacey Evans fits this mold better as well, and Liv as well, actually.
Liv Morgan, I think you could even justify Doudrop to an extent. You could do Alexa Bliss.
Yeah,
yes.
I could see, but not. This isn't a Bianca Belair title. This isn't a Rhea Ripley title.
That completely. Bianca Belair is absolutely a diva. For that matter, so is Sasha Banks. Even though, yes, they're associated with the Evolution stuff, but they're divas through and through.
Yeah, I guess if you're looking at it in that direction, yeah. I wouldn't take the belts off of either of them for it. I would.
I don't think that you would need to. At least not in the case of the women's tag titles.
So just a general breakdown. I'm going to send this to you guys on Skype so you have a quick look of like these ones that we're talking about. This is just copied from wherever. That's why it still says Faith Jeffries. And I forgot that nobody can see this, so why am I even justifying that?
Thank you for telling us that.
Yeah. Out of this list, I think I'd go with the original thing that we were just talking about. I think I'd lean more towards Carmella.
I'd still go with Carmella, but it's nice to see that there are a lot of options, and maybe that is something. Again, I like that all of the belts that we talked about could reasonably be brought back and be fun.
What about you,
Yeah.
Calum? What would your?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think Carmella's a very good choice, so I would co-sign on that. But it was 100% my decision. I'd probably take the NXT Championship off of Mandy and make her the Divas Champion.
I can live with that.
I would be totally down for that too, especially if that would be the way to get her up on the main roster and be like, no, I'm bringing a different championship in. And then if that were the case, who would we have as that next NXT champion though? Because we would need to crown a new NXT Women's Champion.
I mean, at the moment it's looking like Wendy Chu.
At the moment, it's looking like Nikita Lyons.
That's what I was thinking. Nikita Lyons.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Win that breakout tournament and beat Mandy for the belt.
I mean, fundamentally, if it was just entirely down to me, and I don't know, I'm sure it wouldn't be entirely co-signed, but I'd say Alba Fire. Or I'd put it back on Io Shirai.
Yeah, I was waiting for the Io Shirai answer from you.
I don't have those two. They're the two best wrestlers on the roster, so why wouldn't you put the title on one of those two?
I mean, I definitely agree with that as well.
I think I would definitely go with the Carmella option over the Mandy option and wait for Mandy to be whoever beats Carmella, that she beats that person. But if I were to have to be like, all right, we're going with the Mandy Rose option, I think I would lean more towards just going straight to Nikita Lyons. Although, if they weren't going to push her already, I'd potentially just go, all right, Roxanne. Why not? It's NXT 2.0, who cares? Kind of thing. She's good. I like her.
I mean, Roxanne is already twice the worker that Nikita Lyons is.
Mm-hmm. Some people would be like, oh, this is too fast. And I'd be like, well, tough shit. I like her. So I'd rather her win the championship than for them to just be like, all right, well, technically speaking, Cora's been there longer, so let's give it to her instead. Because I think that Roxanne's a little further along in those regards.
I now have the Police song stuck in my head.
Which song?
Roxanne.
Oh. I was like, what, about further along? I don't remember a song like that. Yeah, and then, you play into the Divas thing. You make it a little bit more of a gimmicky title in the sense of you feuding over the mid-card title, but like the storyline catfighty type crap. This would be the only belt that I wouldn't be interested in them bringing back in that regard, just because I do think that that's kind of pigeonholing them in a certain way. But down the line, I'm still saying I think that they should eventually get rid of the brand split, and you should merge those Raw and SmackDown women's titles, have the women's championship, and then a mid-card title. But I wouldn't call it the Divas. I don't know what I would call it.
I feel like if they called it the Divas, it could really go far in kind of undoing what they did in making diva a dirty word. Because I think there is something to be said that, like, they did try to erase that era a little bit at first, and I don't think that that's fair to those competitors. I'd call it the Divas belt. And at this point, honestly, the people coming in today would be as geeked about that as people 10 years ago when Cody pulled the classic IC title out.
You guys think if he wins, he's gonna do something with the wing title? He's talked about it.
I think he's going to introduce a new belt. I don't know if they'll let him just be like, I'm bringing back the Winged Eagle title, because they're very, hey, we like having a giant WWE logo in the middle of things, as if there was any question of, what is this wrestling belt? But I think he's going to change it.
I think he's probably not the first person and won't be the last person that says they would want to bring back the Wing Eagle Championship and won't do it because that's not on their cards.
But he's also the person who just straight up didn't ask and paid for the IC title remake and said, I have this. I'm going to use it. And they said, okay. Maybe he catches them in a good mood and they're just like, yeah, fuck it. Sure.
One random day he talks to Vince and Vince is just kind of like, oh, I've had a really good burrito today. I'm cool with it,
Well, because if you think about it, he did pay for the other one himself. And then they kind of just used it. There was never any explanation of like anything other than this is what Cody wants, so we brought this belt back, and now it's the belt for 10 years. You know?
Well, judging by this breakdown we have, because I can't think of anything else. I mean, we have King of the Ring going on, where technically we have King Woods, Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank. You know, I mean, there isn't really any other kind of accolade that they don't have anymore. We're not going to bring back like, oh, the Kuwaiti Cup or something. You know, I can't think of anything else. Is that it?
Probably.
It wouldn't be like worth discussing. Okay, the Junior Heavyweight Championship when we just already did that. The Canadian Championship. Okay, well, you're really going to do that? ECW again, we mentioned. No need. Yeah, I'm looking through. I'm not seeing a single other type of belt or anything. So
No.
It's funny how you look back and it's like defunct Women's Tag Team Championship, and you're like, no, that's just different. You know, it's just you change.
Yeah, because they have
activity.
a lot of defunct belts, but a lot of them are mostly just like the World Tag Team Championship for some reason is considered defunct, but it's just the Tag Team Championship.
Right. So there's
Well,
nothing.
they're not called
really
that anymore.
Well, what do you?
But they're Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Championship.
Yeah, but if they were one belt right now, they'd be the WWE Tag Team Championship.
Yeah, which isn't the World Tag Team Championship.
Whatever.
That was the one that was created on SmackDown.
Yeah,
2010.
which is so awkward because now the whole lineage starts with Benoit. What are you gonna do?
Well, we're gonna eventually probably get that unified WWE Tag Team Championship going on.
And they're gonna be
soon.
like, the legacy starts with the Usos. Suck it.
Yeah.
Whole new legacy.
It probably will be. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, if you guys have any other suggestions, drop them in the comments below. If you like this kind of discussion and we could do more what if content like that, then we can brainstorm some other ideas. This was really on the whim. So
this was as last minute as I think we've ever done anything.
Pretty much, yeah. But hey, it's worth talking about titles. When that's another opportunity we could do this. They don't even have Clash of the Champions on the card anymore. It's Clash of the Castle instead. But
Clash of the Castle.
Clash of the Castle. Clash of the Castle. And we'll see how those other belts go. I hope at the very least we get those unified tag titles. Means we get no Sentinel head kind of things. We get a brand new World Tag Team title, unified black belt design sort of thing going on with side plates because you need those. And we'll see how this plays out. I do not expect a single one of these championships to come back anytime soon at all, or pretty much ever. The idea that a hardcore title is going to return ever seems like it's not happening, but
I could see a European coming back. They'll wake up one day and be like, you know what? We need a hook for this upcoming European show, and then we'll have a European title around for like 5 or 6 years.
Based off of the way that we picked this, though, if we were to have these titles return, Cruiserweight Champion Ricochet, new Intercontinental Champion Kevin Owens, European title goes to Gunther, Hardcore title goes to Sheamus. We got an MMA champion in Shinsuke Nakamura, $1 million title goes to The Miz, and Carmella is sporting the Divas Championship. I think it makes sense.
I like it.
Yep, all fits.
Yeah, so let us know if you guys have any other picks that you would rather see holding these belts. If you have any other suggestions of like, wow, why didn't you guys say that they could rebrand this and that way and change the hardcore title to this name or that name or whatever. I don't know. I mean, there's worth more discussion points, but I think we've exhausted ourselves, at least on this topic. And we just want to remind everybody that if you did enjoy this discussion, hit the like button, because that's a great way for us to know that you did enjoy this. And if you are not subscribed already, make sure that you hit that button, subscribe, ring that little notification bell. That way you know when we go live. Like we randomly decided to do the pay-per-view thing as a live watch-along instead of a post-show this past night. So you never really know what's happening here. We might just kind of swerve you and just, anything can happen in Smark Out Moment, like it does in WWE. But you should follow Smark Out Moment all over the place at Smark Out Moment. You should follow fanboysanonymous.com and check out everything that's happening over there. You should follow me at Tony Mango and A Mango Tree. And you should follow these guys. Rob?
Yeah, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice, including on Twitch. And just as we randomly decided to go live on Sunday, I randomly went live earlier this morning just to do a watch along of the Nintendo Indie Showcase. I'll be doing more of that as Summer Games Fest comes along, and I just want to do more live content in general. So follow me everywhere, and now I give you a Callum. Callum?
So you can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out everything that's going out on the smark.com website. The Power Rankings is where you'll find my week-to-week contribution. But there's also the Fantasy League, which is now up and running on the Smark website as well for season 2022-2023. First points will start going up towards the end of the week when I start to just retabulate and look through everything and say, oh, this person was on this show and this person was on this show. So that's going to be a whole process every single week. So bear with me on that front, but you'll be able to follow.
We are certain that you're losing, though, because you're starting at a deficit.
The points don't come in. The point deficits don't come until the end of the thing. So for the time being, I'll be as close as I can be. But because people might re-sign, they might bring Candice LeRae back.
You know, that is true.
And then there's no penalty, so that's fine. But yeah, so we'll keeping track of all of that stuff as well. And yeah, that's it for me.
Do we currently have? I'm not seeing on the tracker the point things. I don't know if I'm looking at the right thing.
I haven't added these scores yet.
Okay, I was gonna say if you go to WWEFantasyLeague.com, you will see all the things that are like the Fantasy League label up on the website. So the most recent thing is the one that you guys want to click on.
Yeah, you at the moment you can just be able to see the teams and stuff like that. Because I'll probably update them like once a week after SmackDown every week and stuff like that, and just like okay, that's week 1 done and stuff like that, and count all the points that way rather than keep track of them and constantly update it week like after every show.
Yeah,
frankly, I don't watch the shows anymore. So
yeah.
I'm just gonna check out the recaps and then just start. Okay, I see that person's name, so that person gets that point and whatever, and yeah, work that way instead.
You lucky bastard. Well, that's it for this discussion, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this. We know that the Hot Tags is coming up on Friday. We will talk about the new Ring of Honor logo at the very least. That's the only topic that I have currently written down. But maybe we'll talk about the limited schedule that Roman Reigns is supposedly having. Maybe we'll have more information about the weird Money in the Bank promo. Maybe they're going to clarify that.
If you get me on this Hot Tags, we'll definitely be talking about Kota Ibushi.
Oh, the Kota Ibushi stuff, for sure.
I'd like to have you on that podcast.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Let me add that in there before I forget about it. Kota Ibushi, man. I don't know what's going on there, but there's something. And we will talk about that on Friday, and you'll be able to hear that on Friday afternoon or Friday night, whatever it is that you're listening to this. And we're going to roll it along. But next week is another blank week right now that I currently have written down. I don't think we have anything that's going on. So we shall see. After that, we got Double or Nothing. And we know that In Your House is coming up now, June 4th. So In Your House is something that we're going to be covering with Hell in a Cell the week after that. So this next week is the next blank week. And if you have any suggestions of what you would like us to do, drop them in the comments below as well. Send us a tweet, post something in Megamaniacs, whatever it might be. And we'll take that into consideration. And until then, we will see you next time, everybody. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment. And we are being counted out.